First Lady have tested positive for the coronavirus. They were tested following news that White House top aide Hope Hicks had tested positive after traveling extensively with the president this week. There are reports that Hicks is experiencing symptoms. However, at this time, there's no word if the president or First Lady are sick. Actually, I can go back on that, saying that people in the White House have said they are feeling well right now. That is an update to that. And a memorandum, the president's physician said that the president and the First Lady, as I said, are both well at this time and plan to remain at home within the White House during this time. Now, we're going to go to Fox News correspondent Steve Doocy for the very latest.
Hey, Steve's still sleeping, but Peter is here.
You're Peter. I was going to say,
That's all right, Ashley. We do have some breaking news, because I know that there has been a little bit of confusion about this. We're told now that the White House Chief of Staff, Mark Meadows, has been tested as part of normal protocol and has been negative in his recent tests. And so there have been some things swirling around online about, next steps, people wanting to know who might have been in contact with the president and with Hope Hicks. But I've just been told by a White House official, a senior White House official, that Mark Meadows has tested negative. I'm talking to you right now, Ashley, from Grand Rapids, Michigan, because this is where Joe Biden is supposed to have an event tomorrow. We were with him in Wilmington, Delaware earlier today. He has been doing a lot more campaigning lately. He had his busiest day on the campaign trail since March, yesterday, 7 stops. He is very conscious about wearing a mask. In fact, at one point, I was sitting about 25 feet away from Biden, and he began his remarks for 3 or 4 minutes with the mask on. His staff had to motion in the back, hey, it's okay to take it off, we're social distance. But I have reached out since to figure out, and we're still waiting for some answers, about whether or not he is going to now quarantine as well, because he was in proximity with the president on Tuesday night on the debate stage. And I've also reached out, and I'm still waiting for an answer, and I know it's late, and so it's not really fair to expect an answer quickly, but whether or not Joe Biden even knows at this point.
That's what I was wondering.
The president has tested positive.
Right, because, I mean, obviously you check Twitter 24/7 just to see if there's any inkling of a chance that somebody on the Biden campaign knows about this. And that's what I keep asking, and I think a lot of people are wondering, since this happened on Tuesday, granted they were socially distant, but as I keep saying, there had to have been at some point some sort of contact or touch somewhere in that area. And if not, we know that President Trump, he's been around people, obviously, who have tested positive, but he was fine. But there's always that worry for VP Joe Biden.
And there is. And just something else that has changed, Ashley, since the last time that we spoke. The president's schedule for tomorrow, and this should be obvious based on his public statements on Twitter, but he was scheduled to attend a fundraiser in D.C. and then an event in Florida, and those events have been canceled. He is now just going to be doing a conference call tomorrow. But
will this be a video conference call?
We don't believe so. Usually these things are just a normal conference call, old-fashioned conference call.
Right.
And speaking of that, earlier in the day, there was a different conference call with Trump campaign officials about the next debate. And, there are so many news cycles in a day that it's hard to remember, or it's easy to forget, that earlier today there was a lot of talk about whether or not at this next debate the moderator was going to be able to cut somebody's mic if they are interrupting or if they're going over their time. Well, the next presidential debate is within 2 weeks of right now, and we don't know how long President Trump is going. We don't want to speculate about how long he's going to be quarantining for, but certainly these Trump campaign assertions earlier today that they were not ready to agree to any changes to a debate but that the president would definitely be there. Tonight's news could potentially change that calculus. And we do know, and we did a lot of reporting on this in the last couple of days, the negotiations about these debates and the ground rules continue until the very, very last second before the candidates take stage. And so there are a lot of moving parts here.
Right, and Peter, I don't mean to interrupt, but do you think this is going to affect potentially the vice president debate next week? I've been asking everyone I've talked to tonight, maybe somebody will get in contact. I know it's in the middle of the night. Trust me, I know it's hard to get in touch with people. But does anyone know if President Trump came in contact with VP Pence, or if anyone as far as Kamala Harris knows about this news? Is there anything, any inkling of a chance that we know anything about that right now?
We don't know enough about that right now. I know that in conversations that I've had with some White House officials throughout the Trump administration or throughout his tenure in the White House, that Mike Pence and Donald Trump spend as much time together as anybody. But that obviously changed once the pandemic lockdown started. And they have had Mike Pence drop in as a special guest or as an unannounced guest at some recent Trump rallies, including last week when Air Force Two landed right ahead of Air Force One, and they spoke together in front of a big crowd. But we don't have enough information yet to know about whether or not this is going to affect the VP debate in Salt Lake City, which is scheduled for, I guess now since it's Friday, 5 days from now.
Okay. All right, Peter, thanks so much. I appreciate it.
All right. Thank you, Ashley.
We're going to go now to Shannon Bream, anchor of Fox News at Night. Shannon, thanks for coming back with us right now. This is news that is heard all around the world right now.
You're right. And, yeah, we're just trying to look ahead to all of these other possible contacts, as you've talked about with several of the guests. And as I think it was Peter Doocy who reported, we got the news in that White House Chief of Staff Mark Meadows and his chief aide have also tested negative at this point. And, you know, there's been a lot of conversation about, listen, he's with the president all the time. He's been with him in these planning meetings. He's also been in meetings with Mitch McConnell, the Senate Majority Leader, Supreme Court nominee Justice Amy Coney Barrett, who is now meeting with a bunch of senators all over the Hill. So you just have to think about with any person who tests positive with COVID, just where all the potential outreach and contacts end up. So, you know, it's always good news when someone tests negative, but certainly for Mark Meadows, because he's been in so many critical meetings and is in the middle of so many big issues right now. There are conversations over working on a COVID relief package. You know, there are folks all over the Hill. So there are just so many things that are interconnected. So that's good news. Now, we did see a tweet go out from the vice president and second lady tonight saying they're sending their prayers to the president, wishing him well, that kind of thing. So then the question becomes, all right, as you've discussed, do we know the last time he was tested and when the last time he was in contact with the president, Hope Hicks, or anyone else who's been in contact with the president or Hope Hicks? It's all very interconnected, but we know that those folks are tested on a daily or almost daily basis. So as Dr. Siegel, I think, was saying, if the president has tested positive tonight, he's probably been tested every day leading up to this. And so if they're catching it, it's probably very early in his infection for it to be showing up, as it probably takes a little bit of time. As the doctor said, it's not impossible that the first day he'd be infected, it would show up, but it may have been more than a couple of days. So, listen, we know every person the president is in contact with, every meeting. It's all very carefully documented, and it will be possible for folks to go back and trace all of those potential outreaches. But knowing that there is constant testing, knowing that the president is monitored by his physician on a regular basis, inside COVID times and outside COVID times, they're going to have a very, very tight bubble around him. And on every move, every temperature check, you would think for him and the First Lady that there will be the very best medical care possible for the president. And we'll see. I mean, there have been a number of other world leaders, if you think about it, who have gone through this. You know,
Boris
President
Johnson,
Bolsonaro down in Brazil. We think about Prince Charles over, there was a political leader, royalty and a different kind of leader over in the UK. There have been a number of prominent people that have had this, and we can hope and pray that the leader of this country comes through as well as they did.
Right. I was just going to say, Boris Johnson, to name a few, who was symptomatic, very, very, very ill from this. Shannon, thank you so much.
Have a great night.
And please stay tuned to Fox News Channel and this Fox station for continuing coverage of this story. I'm Ashley Strohmeyer.